Hey everyone, welcome to the Christian Music Bros podcast. We're here today discussing music with awesome guests today, and today we've got a really special one. I'm Braden, and this is Brendan,
Hello,
and we're
everybody.
and we're here with an artist, John Tibbs. So super excited for that.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us this week.
Yeah.
So to start with this episode off, can you tell us a little bit about your music journey?
My music journey. Oh man, that could take the whole podcast.
Or at
That's
least like
really-
a brief rundown or like what you've been up
Yes.
to or whatever.
Yeah. So I am a PK, pastor's kid, and started like playing the piano when I was 4, got involved in church and all of that. Always thought I was going to be like on staff at a church, and I went to college at Anderson University, which is just outside of Indianapolis, and was on staff at a church after that for a short time, and then put out an EP and started touring from there. And yeah, just those doors kept opening, and so I've been touring full time for over 10 years now, which is just wild to me. So because and I started touring full time, it was after that Easter Sunday in 2013, and it was like, okay, let's get through August, and then like a tour came through, and it was like, okay, well, let's get through January, and on and on and on, and then here I've been doing it for over 10 years now. So
That's like always exciting. Like I feel like a lot of the musicians start out as like a PK. That's like I feel like that's a common theme with a lot of people. I'm just saying that's very cool. Like how everyone has the same background. It's just like, but they have like different experiences. So I find that really cool.
Yep, totally, very different experiences.
With that EP you brought up, can you talk us a little bit about that EP?
Yeah. Oh man. That was like the very beginning. That was called Swallowing Death, Breathing Life. And that was 2012. So been over 10 years now. And we put that one out on Orange Trade. Have you guys heard of that?
I did at one point.
Yes. So it was very big like 10 years ago. But it was before streaming really took hold, and you could just go in and enter your contact info and download either a tune or an EP or an album. And so through that I had a lot of like emails and that kind of thing. And so from there we did a second EP through Kickstarter. And the people that had listened to that first EP and enjoyed it then backed me on Kickstarter. And then through that, this artist named Audrey Assad. Have you heard of her?
Yes.
Yeah. So Audrey had just left Capitol Records at the time. This is over 10 years ago. And she was going out as an independent. She did like a hymns and worship album. It was just beautiful. It was called Fortunate Fall, I believe. And she was on that, like in the process of recording that album, and she heard that EP I did and asked me to go out on her tour. And so like I kind of had a huge gift to like I was just starting off, and we had a album that had been downloaded thousands of times, and we had all of these emails, and then I got the opportunity to go out on a tour with her. So through that kind of just really opened up a bunch of doors, and ended up doing a deal and moving down here to Tennessee, and been doing it ever since.
That's really exciting. And when I was looking at your discography, because I just do a little research before we meet, you have 2 albums out as well, it looks like, too.
Yes, this is probably outdated. Honestly, I've put out music very frequently. So like, yeah, we had 2 EPs and a single before I got signed, and then we did a full record. And since then, I've done like 5 or 6 EPs and a dozen or so singles. And we put out 3 other songs last year, and I've got some covers I'm going to put out here soon. This probably into summer, early fall. So, and of course, all of the Christmas tunes that you put out over time too. I think I looked at the other day, we got like 77, 78 songs out. So
Yeah, I was like I was just going for that. It's all like monthable like EPs, tons of albums, tons of singles.
Mhm.
We could talk about each one, but we don't have the time like to talk about everything. Well, I guess we want to do like a 4-hour episode. So if you want to say you're stuck into this 4-hour episode now, I'm kidding. Brandon, do you have anything you want to add or talk about?
Yeah, of course. You mentioned about how you release so much music throughout the time, and I know I've been amazed at keeping up with your singles, your EPs, how consistent you've been. But you've also mentioned about crowdfunding because I know so many of your albums were crowdfunded, and I'm just curious about what has the fan response been because you've been releasing music so consistently through crowdfunding. You have a huge fan base behind you, so what's that been like connecting with fans that way?
Man, I love crowdfunding for the like simple purpose of just like connecting with people. I try to be very like conservative with our asks, and I try not to like have these huge like income goals because it really isn't about that, and just have a connection point for people. So yeah, so I've done Kickstarter, and then we did pledge music, and then now we do a thing called it's called a Patreon, and we've done Patreon since like 2019, and it's just kind of like an ongoing way to connect to people. I have some ideas for the future. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. I think probably some other Kickstarters are in store. Do some finals. I've got a bunch of songs I'm putting together um, these days, and just trying to figure out what to do going forward. I think, you know, COVID, of course, just like I think all of us are still trying to like get on our feet, and like I'm not trying to just get back up on my feet. I think I had a lot of plans, and COVID threw all those plans off, and so we like adjusted and pivoted and all that stuff. And now I'm getting back to a place where I'm like, oh, I can kind of start planning ahead, I guess. And it's like I feel like it's kind of like the first time it's like, okay, that that like era is kind of past us, and so we can kind of start figuring stuff out in the future. So yeah, love those things because it's just a great way to build a deeper relationship. And I am so thankful for everyone who has just honestly just like tuned in and like paid any attention. And on top of that, like people who have given over and over and over again, because I couldn't do it without people caring and people giving and just paying attention. And there are so many things these days where you can just like you can be so busy and preoccupied, and I'm so thankful for anyone who just like pays attention. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That's
It's-
awesome.
Yes, that's pretty cool. I'm like really big on artist engagement too. So like I try at least to, even if I can't donate per se, I like try to comment and share things and like
Yeah.
on our podcast platform. So that's like one reason why we like having guest stars is so we can help promote them in a way and everything too.
So nice.
Brad, do you have a follow-up question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, you also mentioned, of course, throughout all these singles and everything, that COVID, of course, changed up a huge portion of what music industry, I think what all the artists were like planning from tours, from releases. So what's it been like with that new strategy going forward? Because music industry, like you said, you've been doing this for about 10 years full time, and it's changed drastically over time, especially with COVID with so much digital platforms. So what's it like now just doing a lot of singles, a lot of EPs recently? So how's that been? How have you adjusted to that change in the music industry?
Yeah, man. The music industry, I feel like since I started doing this has changed 3 times, and I've been doing it full time for 10 years. And I think there's been 3 large changes and COVID on top of that. So and I was just starting off. People are still going to stores, buying albums, downloading singles on iTunes. And then came the whole give your email, that kind of thing, and then download content. But like the concept of streaming had not really been out there yet. And then, of course, streaming changed everything. And and then COVID, and then streaming continues to change. Like before, it used to be, Apple or Amazon, like they would add your song to a playlist, and today it's all algorithm. And
Mhm.
so, like, I can go and pull up a big playlist on there, and it can have completely different tunes than the other person. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, and on top of that, COVID and touring's changed too. Like, I think overall, this isn't just in the Christian space, it's just like across all touring. I think like touring's still down like 30 some percent. And I just, people's like habits have changed and their comforts and all that. And so, like, I think, how have I adjusted? I just try to hold an open hand with everything.
Mhm.
And to be down for it all. And man, I'm thankful I get to do this. Like, I don't take that for granted at all. And so I'm very thankful. And you know even though the industry's changed and things surrounding it has changed, the purpose I have in it, and that's to create honest tunes that hopefully connect to people and point them to the hope and the peace of God. Like, that hasn't changed. And so just trying to be flexible in like how I continue to do that. uh
Mhm.
so yeah, just trying to be very consistent and dedicated to that purpose.
Mhm. Love that. Yeah.
That's really good. We're gonna try to shift gears instead of talk about like COVID and everything. So we're gonna try to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite songs you've written, and can you tell us a little bit about your favorite song you have written?
Oh man, was not expecting that. That's really hard to choose because they're all like kids of mine. I would say, Um, honestly, the most favorite song I've written, I haven't even recorded yet, so I can't talk about that one. But I'll say last year I put out two songs. I put out a song called "After the Night" and then "Lay Your Head Down," and there were two versions of that. And I really, um, those two songs meant a lot to me personally, um, especially after the night. It's the first song I've written where I didn't have anyone like chiming in or editing or helping out.
Mm.
Because after you come to town, like there's so many hugely talented writers, and so usually you have an idea and you sit down with a couple people and you hash it out, that kind of thing. And um this song just kind of came to me in like half an hour, and wrote the whole thing. And it's just I love it because I think it's meant a lot to me personally. It's a song just about hope and keeping at it and just understanding that like good things are still to come. And like Emily and we found out we were pregnant like 3 weeks before COVID. And so uh becoming a father has been the best thing to me. It's also been so hard because because so much of like your old self just like has to give up. And like and like you become like you have a kid that depends on you, and that like, yeah, it's been a beautiful hard journey. And I think doing all that through COVID was challenging. And I went through a season where I was so depressed for the first time, that uh and so that song in particular meant so much to me. And it's been really cool. After you put a song out, you kind of have to like give it over to everybody else, and it takes on their own expressions and their own purposes for other people. And it's been really cool to see how other people have connected to it in that sense as well. So
Thanks for sharing that. That's true. really, I don't know if cool is a word for it, but really cool to hear
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
I didn't know like the proper word there, so I apologize. But for listening, for those listening, I recommend checking out the song. Check out John's other music. You can find him on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and everything else. So I recommend you checking that out.
Love it.
Brandon?
Yeah, definitely also check out his Patreon because there's some good stuff coming up there. But yeah, I definitely want to also say like I first discovered you through actually the God's Not Dead soundtrack
Oh, no
when
way.
your song was featured on that. Yeah. So I wanted to ask about like what was that experience like? I know that was several years ago, but having one of your songs featured on that collection, because I know that's how I discovered you along with so many others. So like what was that experience like?
Man, that was cool. I loved that season. I'm so thankful for it. I got a tour with the Newsboys after that came out, and I look back on that season so fondly. It was such a good time. So yeah, I mean, and those kind of opportunities happen. You just have to be so appreciative of them. And yeah, like I just like you know, you can't say that you like earned it or you deserve it or anything like that. It's just a gift.
Mhm,
And so yeah, man, that was a good time. That's awesome to hear that that's how you discovered me. That's pretty fun.
definitely, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'd lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something. I had a
Yes.
thought to go off that, but I had something. Oh yeah. Um, have you would you like being on more soundtracks? So say, would you do more soundtrack music for soundtracks?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, that whole space has changed a lot too. So you, you know, those aren't things you can really plan for. I feel like they just
Mhm.
happen. But yeah, of course I'd be open to that.
That's very cool. Is it so we have a few extra minutes. We don't want to take your whole day because I know you have a toddler at home and everything. So, is there anything else you want to talk about? This is a platform, feel free to talk about whatever you want, ask anything. The space is yours.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, man, this is cool that you guys are doing this. So how long have you done this
This
podcast?
Well, so we started out in September of last year, and we'd probably put out like 6 or 7 episodes from like September to December because we were still kind of
Cool.
new. We didn't know what we were doing, to be honest with you. So like we did like we went by album, going track by track to start off with that. And from there, sorry, my dog's getting out. Sorry, my dog got out at her
Thank
cage.
you.
But so like we went by track by track to prove an album. So say what was our first episode again, Brendan? Was it Toby Mac's Life After Death? So it was like right after Toby Mac's Life After Death came out. So we were diving into each track and going that way. But then after this, we reevaluated in January. We still did albums, but we're now involving guests too. Sometimes we'll have a guest talk about one of their EPs or albums and
So
everything. So
cool.
that's where we went to. And we're just trying to promote independent artists or different artists, trying to talk
Yeah.
about their music or themes in music.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. So,
Yeah.
and so how did you guys get introduced to each other since you're from two different states?
I'll let Brad answer that one.
Yeah, Brendan and I both, we also work with the site called New Release Today.
Mm,
And so we both got hired around the same time, about a few weeks from each other. And we just started getting to know each other and then our love for music and our just wanting to do this podcast, helping new artists in different ways. So we joined together, did this. It took a little bit of planning and figure out what we're doing. Like Brendan said, once we started, there was a little bit of still trying to figure it out. But we're not associated within our team, but we both still work there. We love that team and we love what we do here as well.
that's awesome. Yeah, I know a few people that are in that orbit, like Katie
She's the one that
from.
recommended you to us. She's like, you should reach out to John. So that's what we I
He's
did.
awesome. And a couple other people there, all good people. So that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we just wanted to do our own thing, do freelance because my major in college, I'm not in this field right now, was communication. So I kind of wanted to do something in my field range too, as well, like freelance and everything.
I love it. I love
Mhm.
it. Well, you guys keep it up, and it was great to talk to you today. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks again
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Thanks to all our listeners, followers, viewers watching this episode. Remember to like, follow, subscribe our podcast if you like what you're hearing. Also check out John, give his music a like and share and everything. So thank you again for tuning in and have a great week, everyone.